So hi everybody, welcome to the part 4 of our webinar series, Preparing for a Peak Season. I'm Thomas Scott, a business advisor here at CallSource. I'm also joined by my colleague Stephanie Karowski.
Hello everyone.
If you haven't done so already, please remember to select the telephone option under the audio section of your dashboard and call into today's meeting. We would like this to be an interactive webinar, so please submit your questions and raise your hand on the dashboard if you would like to participate in the Q&A session after the presentation. And then once again, guys, this webinar is going to be recorded. Okay. So busy periods present unique challenges for you as an owner and for your team. It's easy to look down the calendar and feel overwhelmed. Instead of just keeping your head above water, there are ways to prepare and maximize your efforts. It should go without saying that taking the time to properly prepare for busy periods can help alleviate problems and improve performance. But we do understand that as owners and leaders in your business, you're already wearing multiple hats. So when it comes to managing day-to-day operations, you have the urgent and you have the important. In this webinar, we're going to discuss ways that CallSource will help prepare you for and manage the demands of a peak season by identifying your business's constraint points during peak season, utilizing CallSource reporting to analyze phone traffic and outcomes, and then implementing actionable analytics to save time and ultimately improve your performance. So how are you going to prepare? Here are going to be the next few steps. Number one is to do your homework. It's difficult to prepare for peak season unless you have an idea of expected volumes. Keep in mind that for some of you, your business's peak season may not be as obvious as like a retail industry during the holidays. So for example, an HVAC company that can have an increase in calls during the summer when it's much warmer out, or maybe a plumber in the area of the country with harsh winters may be busier around then if people's pipes are bursting. So it depends on the nature of your business as well as where you are located and how the weather can affect that. So what I actually want to do is I want to launch a quick poll just to see if you guys have any idea what the busiest time of the year is for you. So please take a few moments just to answer this, and then I will share the results. All right, just going to give it another moment. Okay, I'll go ahead and share the results now. So it looks like out of this poll, 100% of you guys weren't really sure when your busy periods were, when your busy periods actually are. So it will be important to understand the cycles in your industry in order to navigate seasonal fluctuations. Historical and forecast volume data provides valuable insight into when those peaks are actually expected. So start the preparation process by reviewing CallSource analytics to see when you saw a spike in volume and assess how you've previously performed. Our reporting can actually provide transparency on both marketing and appointment conversion. So for example, if you have peak calls in the summer or winter, but your conversion rate has dropped, this may actually be an indication that you were at a scheduling capacity, or perhaps your team was not able to properly handle the increase in call volume. So additional research will be needed to identify, what prevented you from converting appointments. This data will allow you to establish expectations for success for the upcoming peak season. In addition, with CallSource's wealth of industry data, you can also benchmark your business against your peers. So comparing the data to industry targets can be an incentive to drive productivity and preparation needed to exceed those averages. If you're a newer client, or let's say analytics are not available, talk to your employees about how your team could operate more effectively. It's important that you're asking your team how they can be more efficient. Contributing to the solution may actually create a team buy-in. And who knows, you may also uncover some great ideas. Next, step 2 is going to be actually planning ahead. So the sooner you start to prepare for the influx of volume, the better equipped you'll be to handle it. Peak season should be viewed as a mini organizational change, and actually should be treated as such as well. Operations are potentially different, and everyone's attention should be focused on meeting peak demand and achieving success. A business that can understand how their operation and employees are performing against goals via real-time data can be extremely valuable at any time, but it's especially valuable during peak periods when efficiency becomes so critical. So for certain businesses, this can be a crucial make or break portion of the year. Other businesses have peak seasons based on various events or timing. No matter what the reason is, if the business is to succeed, the peak season must be managed as efficiently as possible. As the busy season starts, having the ability to monitor operations will ensure that projected goals are met or that necessary adjustments are actually made. So reporting and analytics tools are essential during these peak periods. Proceeding through peak times without the proper visibility into call volumes, staffing needs, or appointment capacity doesn't allow the organization to flex and proactively address these concerns. So CallSource reporting will help document your efforts and streamline your performance measurement. With peak seasons approaching, look for automation opportunities that can actually reduce, your manual efforts. Many CallSource reports can be set up to be delivered via email, or we do also offer programs that can alert you when a prospect call did not successfully convert into an appointment within the first couple of hours of the initial call, allowing you to stay ahead of your competitors and actually make outbound call attempts to recapture that potential revenue. For more information or to set up any of these programs, please reach out to your dedicated CallSource representative. By reviewing metrics, you can actually identify improvement opportunities and set goals for success. It will be important to also listen to your calls to determine if your clients are actually receiving the ideal experience from your call handlers. So at this time, I'm actually going to turn it over to Stephanie to talk about tips to what to specifically listen for during these peak times. Go ahead and take it away, Steph.
Thank you, Thomas. So call recordings are a very useful tool for performance improvement. During a peak period, there are some key items to listen for when reviewing phone calls. So sit down and review phone calls and listen to see if your call handlers sound rushed or distracted. Listen specifically to the greeting. Is the business name and the call handler's name clearly stated? If the greeting is poorly handled, you may have already lost a potential client as your greeting sets the tone for the call. Another thing to listen for is if your call handlers are still presenting value. When the call volume picks up, it is easy to turn into order takers and may try to rush through the phone call. This is especially likely if phones are constantly ringing. The team may feel that they have to rush through the call if other lines are ringing. So make sure that your team is conveying the integrity and worth of your business in order to differentiate you from the competitors, even when the office is busy. It will also be important to determine why calls are not being converted into appointments. Having a better understanding of why calls did not convert will help you in fixing this issue. So ask yourself why the appointment was not booked. Do the CSRs have to take messages and call the client back? Is the office at scheduling capacity and having to turn callers away? Is the call handler not willing to wait for the next available appointment? By identifying why appointments are not being set, you can properly coach your team on how to handle those situations. So keep an eye out for our future webinars on how to assess your team's calls for additional information on this. Back to you, Thomas.
Hey, thanks, Steph. So those just starting with CallSource, pay close attention to the metrics gathered and plan ahead for next year. Organized data collection is essential to understanding results and actually learning from them. When a peak season is come and gone, it's also important to conduct a thorough review. Make sure you repeat what actually worked and minimize what didn't. So the next step we're actually going to look at is actually examining your staffing. So if you're not prepared, you may find that you're short on staff or your team members actually struggle with the increased call volume or workloads during these busy periods. When it comes to staffing up, don't just try to add bodies. You got to make sure that you're actually creating a plan. A wave of inexperienced staff arriving as volume goes up typically leads to mistakes, excessive demands on managers, and potentially lost prospects and ultimately potentially lost revenue. You want your staff to be effective, not just present when the pressure actually does increase. So the best results come from closely evaluating the process to determine how it can be modified to streamline the work. So CallSource reporting will actually provide an analysis of your business's peak days and times, for your prospects to help you identify patterns in your call volume. So when analyzing your data, think about the following. What days of the week are you receiving the most prospect calls? What time is that? What day and time are we experiencing the most missed opportunities? And do I have the appropriate staff on schedule for these particular times? So calendar blocking is also going to be very important. Time stressors are some of the most universal sources of pressure in the workplace, and they actually happen as a result of having too much to do in too little time. So your workload is already pretty high, and you have many other urgent, tasks on your to-do list. So because of this, you can, as a business owner, you can be anxious, you can't concentrate, and everything seems to, potentially distract you. So you're probably looking at your calendar and feeling like you couldn't possibly add one more thing, but you should. Setting aside specific time in your schedule to work on certain tasks will help you manage your workload, especially during these peak seasons. Knowing exactly what to do and when will help you feel more in control of your tasks. Time management means being effective, as well as efficient. By blocking time on your calendar, you can clear enough time to do what's essential for your success. This will maximize your chances of keeping on track and help you to avoid the stress of, work becoming more urgent than necessary. This is why, you move from a firefighting position into a position where you can actually maximize and grow your business. Be sure to block out time at least once per week to log into the CallSource system. I mean, even if you invest 30 minutes, per week reviewing metrics, you're empowered to influence your conversion rate during the course of each month by ensuring required changes are implemented. It'll also be important to invest, in frequent team meetings even during these busiest times. It's very easy to fall into bad habits when everyone feels pressed for time. You don't want the goals you have set for your business and team to be disregarded because leadership is too busy to monitor and follow up on the progress. Another tip to do is to actually try and have time slots where, you're available on your calendar so that people know that they can speak to you or when they can actually speak with you. A good way to do this is to actually arrange regular meetings with those who interrupt you most often so that you can deal with all their issues at one time. You'll then be able to concentrate on your important activities for longer. So when reflecting on what was discussed today, think about call source and performance measurement and what it can actually teach you to streamline your operations and efficiencies. What were the lessons learned? Were there any major problems that need to be resolved for the future? If so, identify and develop a plan to take action and set dates for the actual resolution. It is important to ask these questions and to do a careful evaluation of what worked and what didn't at the conclusion of these peak seasons so that all areas of the business know how their department performed and ultimately what can be improved. So this is going to conclude my presentation for today. Make sure to keep an eye out for invitations to our next webinar, How to Assess Your Team's Calls, which should be coming out pretty soon. At this time, I'm actually going to open up the floor to any questions that you might have.
Hi, Thomas. This is Stephanie again. I have a question for you that I get frequently asked by my clients. What report would you say is useful in seeing trending data to determine when a peak season will occur?
That's actually a really good question, Steph. Thanks for that. So if you've been in business for a while, at least you're vaguely aware, there's a rhythm to the year. Tuning into these rhythms can actually help you manage your time, your talents, and your resources, to add up to your bottom line. But like we said before, our reporting can actually help you make informed decisions based on your volume. So a great report to use is actually going to be the owner summary report. So this report will actually provide, month-over-month trending data for both your prospects and your appointments. So, if you want to dive into this report in more detail, make sure to reach out to your CallSource representative.
Thanks, Thomas.
You got it. Okay, any other questions? All right. I am not seeing anything else come up, guys. I'm going to conclude the webinar at this time. Please feel free to reach out to your designated CallSource representative if you have any additional questions. Thank you again.